At 82 years old, I've experienced more than most people. I've had the joy of watching my children grow, the heartache of loss, and the warmth of countless memories. I've lived through challenges, celebrated triumphs, and learned the hard way that life isn't always as it seems. But there's one decision I deeply regret. It wasn't the decision to let go of my old house or the decision to downsize, though those were hard. No, the one I regret is moving into a nursing home. When the idea first came up, it seemed like the best option. My family was encouraging it. They said it would be safe, comfortable, and I'd be well cared for. They assured me that I'd finally be free of the daily chores and responsibilities that had weighed me down for years. And I believed them. I thought it was the right choice. But once I walked through those doors, the reality hit me. What I had imagined was a peaceful, comforting life in my twilight years quickly turned into something completely different. If you or someone you love is considering this step, whether for yourself or a loved one, I want you to listen carefully. There are 6 things I wish someone had told me before I made that decision. Because the truth is, life in a nursing home isn't just about convenience. It changes everything. And once you're in, leaving isn't as easy as it seems. So please, stay with me until the end. Some of these lessons might surprise you. And if you know someone considering a nursing home, this video could be exactly what they need to hear before making a life-changing decision. Regret number 1, losing my independence. When I first moved into the nursing home, I expected some challenges, but nothing could prepare me for the complete loss of independence. Before I moved in, I was in charge of my own life. I decided when to wake up, when to eat, and how to spend my day. If I wanted to take a walk, I could simply slip on my shoes and go. If I wanted to read, I could do so in the comfort of my own chair, or cook my own meals when I felt like it. The simple act of living was mine to control, but inside the nursing home, I quickly realized that my life was no longer my own. Nothing ran on my schedule anymore. Breakfast was served at a set time, even if I wasn't hungry. Lights out happened, whether I was ready for bed or not. Want to go outside for a bit of fresh air? You have to wait until someone is available to assist you. Simple things like choosing what to eat or what to wear felt like privileges rather than basic choices. I remember my first week there. I woke up in a bed that didn't feel like mine. I stretched and reached for the book I had been reading at home, only to realize my books and the cozy comfort of my own chair were gone. All that remained were sterile white walls, an uncomfortable bed, and the harsh reality that I was no longer in control. At first, I tried to fight it. I asked if I could go for a walk. I questioned why the schedule had to be so rigid, but soon I stopped fighting. I realized that I had no choice. I adapted because I had to. But in the process, I started losing myself. The hardest part wasn't just the loss of small freedoms. It was the realization that once you give up your independence, getting it back isn't easy. If you're considering a nursing home, ask yourself, are you ready to give up the small freedoms that make life yours? Because once they're gone, you'll miss them more than you ever imagined. Regret number 2, feeling forgotten. One of the most difficult truths I had to face after moving into the nursing home was how easy it is for the world outside to keep moving without you. In the beginning, my family visited often. My daughter came once a week, my grandkids visited on weekends, and for a little while, it felt like life was still normal. But as time went on, the visits became less frequent. My daughter started calling instead of coming. The grandkids got busy with school and work. Before I knew it, The visits were fewer and farther between. Holidays became the hardest. Everyone promised they'd come, but somehow plans would always change. And suddenly, I found myself sitting alone in a common room, watching other residents stare longingly at the door, hoping for a visitor, hoping someone would remember them. It wasn't that my family stopped loving me. It wasn't that they didn't care. It was just that life had moved on, and I had become an afterthought. I remember one night, sitting alone in my room, staring at my phone. I wanted to call my son, but I didn't want to burden him. I didn't want to remind him that I was still here, waiting for a visit that might never come. So I put the phone down and just sat there. And that's when it hit me. This was my life now. If you're considering a nursing home, ask yourself, are you ready for the loneliness that comes with it? Because no matter how much your family loves you, once you're out of sight, it becomes far too easy to become out of mind. Regret number 3, losing my sense of purpose. When I moved into the nursing home, I thought I was just changing where I lived. I didn't realize that I was also changing why I lived. At home, I had my responsibilities, my routines. I watered the plants, made my own coffee, tidied up my space. Even these small tasks gave me a sense of purpose. But in the nursing home, all of that disappeared. Meals were served to me. Cleaning was done by someone else. The plants, well, they weren't mine to care for anymore. At first, I told myself it would be nice to finally relax, to not have to worry about chores. But after a few weeks, I started to feel something missing. The days began to feel endless. I found myself sitting around, waiting for something to happen, but nothing ever did. I saw it in other residents too. People who had once been full of life and energy now spent their days sitting quietly, watching time pass by. There was a man named George who had been a carpenter his whole life. At home, he was always fixing things, building little projects in his garage. But here, there were no tools, no projects, nothing for him to create. I watched as his hands, once strong and skilled, became idle in his lap. When you no longer have something to care for, something to work toward, life starts to lose its meaning. Your mind slows down, your body follows, and soon you start to feel like just another resident. If you're considering a nursing home, ask yourself, what gives your life meaning? Because once you move in, finding purpose isn't as easy as filling your time. It's about holding on to the things that make you feel alive. Regret number 4. My health declined faster than I expected. Before I moved into the nursing home, I thought my health was in decent shape. I wasn't running marathons, but I could manage my daily activities. I could still go for walks, cook my own meals, and handle basic tasks like grocery shopping. My body wasn't in perfect condition, but I worked hard to keep it strong. But after I moved in, everything changed. At first, it felt like a relief. Meals were brought to me. I didn't have to spend hours in the kitchen anymore. If I needed something, I could simply push a button and someone would come to help. It felt like I had more time to relax and enjoy my days. But what I didn't realize was that the more help I received, the less I did for myself. I stopped walking as much. I stopped moving altogether. Instead of going out for a walk, I would stay in my chair, waiting for someone to bring me something to do. I watched as my legs grew stiffer and my body became more sluggish. Simple movements became harder, and soon, even getting up from a chair started to feel like an effort. I wasn't the only one. There were others around me who were in the same situation. People who had once been active walking on their own 2 feet, now relied on wheelchairs. Others who had always been independent now needed help with tasks they had never struggled with before. The more comfortable life became, the faster my body seemed to deteriorate. It wasn't just me, it was the entire nursing home. The slower we moved, the weaker we got. One day, I noticed my neighbor Alice, an 81-year-old woman who had always been full of life. She used to take daily walks around the facility, insisting she wasn't going to slow down because of her age. But after a few months, I noticed she wasn't walking as much. Then, she started using a walker. Eventually, she was in a wheelchair. One day, Alice looked at me and said, "I don't know when it happened, but I feel like I aged 10 years in just a few months." It was true. Once you stop using your body, it starts to decline. I saw it in myself and in so many others here. The more we let the nursing home do for us, the more we lost our strength, our mobility, and our ability to live life on our own terms. If you're considering a nursing home, ask yourself, will you still have the motivation to keep your body strong when everything is made so effortless? Because once you slow down, getting back up isn't as easy as you think. Regret number 5, the loss of privacy and dignity. One thing I never truly considered before moving into the nursing home was just how much privacy I would lose. At home, I had my own space. I could close the door, sit in silence, or do whatever I wanted without worrying about someone walking in. I could take a nap in peace, choose when I wanted to socialize, and enjoy the comfort of my own space. But in a nursing home, privacy is a luxury you don't always get to keep. From the moment I arrived, I felt like I was constantly being watched. Nurses and staff were in and out of my room, performing regular checks. There were no private moments. Even simple things like getting dressed, using the bathroom, or taking a shower required someone else's assistance. I had to ask for permission to do things I had done independently for years. And then there were the roommates. Not everyone gets a private room. For me, I was lucky to have a kind roommate, but I've heard other stories from residents who weren't as lucky. Some had roommates who were loud, unclean, or even had cognitive issues that made it nearly impossible to get a good night's sleep. I quickly realized that no matter how hard I tried to make my room feel like home, it never truly was. My room was just a space, not my space. Dignity is something we all take for granted until it's gone. Once you lose it, you start to feel like just another name on a list. The little things, your personal choices, your private moments, they start to fade away. And before long, you forget what it feels like to have control over your own life. If you're considering a nursing home, ask yourself, are you prepared to give up your privacy and dignity? Once they're gone, they're hard to get back. Regret number 6, realizing it's harder to leave than you think. When I first moved in, I told myself it would only be temporary. I'd try it for a while, and if I didn't like it, I could always go back to my home. I thought leaving would be easy, but I was wrong. As time went on, the idea of leaving became more complicated. My house, the one I had lived in for decades, was no longer the same. My children had started making changes, selling things they thought I wouldn't need. They even talked about renting it out. And when I mentioned going back, they hesitated. "Are you sure you can manage on your own?" they asked. "Wouldn't it be safer for you to stay here?" The truth is, I wasn't sure I could live on my own anymore. After months of not having to take care of myself, I didn't feel strong. My muscles were weaker, My confidence was gone. The thought of going back to a house that had already started to change made me anxious. And then there were the financial and emotional factors. After months in the nursing home, I had spent money I hadn't expected to. Selling my house wasn't an option anymore. The longer I stayed, the harder it became to leave. I wasn't the only one who felt this way. I met others who thought they'd give the nursing home a try, only to realize that leaving wasn't as simple as they had imagined. Once you settle in, the outside world becomes distant. You lose the ability to go back to life as you knew it. If you're considering a nursing home, ask yourself, are you prepared for the possibility that leaving might not be as simple as you think? Once you settle in, it becomes harder to leave, whether because of physical, financial, or emotional barriers. Looking back, I don't regret getting older. I regret not understanding the true cost of moving into a nursing home. I thought it would provide comfort, safety, and a better quality of life. What I found instead was a world that slowly stripped me of my independence, privacy, sense of purpose, and even my dignity. Does that mean nursing homes are all bad? Not at all. For some, they provide the level of care that is necessary. But before you make that decision, think carefully about what you're giving up. Once you move in, life will never be the same. If I could do it over, I would have fought harder to stay in my own home. I would have explored more ways to get help without losing my freedom. I would have made sure I truly needed to be there before making such a permanent move. If you're facing this decision, I hope you take the time to ask yourself, is this truly what's best for me? Or is it just what seems easiest right now? The life you have today, your routines, your independence, your choices, it's worth holding on to for as long as you can. Thank you for joining me today. If you found my story valuable, please leave a comment below. I'd love to hear from you. Your thoughts are important, and they motivate me to keep sharing what I've learned. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Your support helps us continue creating meaningful content.